What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show on today, where we are talking about HBCU football. It's one more game. HBCU football season is almost over. It's a lot of moves going on in the offseason, and the offseason hadn't even officially started yet. We're going to make sense of it all. I got Arielle Kilgore in the building, proud North Carolina A&T alumni. Arielle, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, HBCUs never wait till postseason to do anything, but I feel like we can't wait just because there's so many opportunities and there's so many things going to the new year, especially what we expect in 2025, just to stay on top of things, make sure that we're doing what we need to do, especially in certain conferences and certain sections. There's been a lot of moving, and we might supposedly have a good season next year. Don't know, but it's been a lot of good news this week, which is kind of rare for us. This whole football season has just been a lot of ups and downs, and I would say more disappointments than proud moments that we've had.
For sure. So let's go on and get into it. SWAC championship, Jackson State, like we predicted, dominated Southern. And to be clear, Southern put up some fight in that first half. I was actually very proud of them. That defense was really tough, and that running game is really good. But when they play against SWAC East teams that are tough, like FAMU, Jackson State, they weren't doing them with them. SWAC West, they were dominating. SWAC East wasn't the same thing. So Arielle, you suffered through this game as well as I did. Okay. So Arielle, I want to know, what are your thoughts on this dominant win for Jackson State as they head to the Celebration Bowl?
I mean, I wouldn't say I suffered through it. I kind of clocked out coming to the third quarter. You know, we both don't like blowouts. This is, I wouldn't say it's surprising, but I am a little bit happy that Jackson State did pull out. Like I said, Jackson State has been rocky all season. It's not to the coach, it's really the players, to me, trying to live up to the hype of what Deion Sanders had left, trying to keep those consistency. And the one thing that Deion Sanders did instill in his boys is perfection, what it means to be an actual player, what it means to be really good at the game. And we see it with his Colorado boys. But when he left for Jackson State, like I said, nothing to TC Taylor and what he's been doing. It's been absolutely amazing how he's turned this program into a winning program and how they are coming back after Deion Sanders' hiatus. But they have had some really bad flags on the field, really a lot of penalties throughout this season. Even in this game, even though they had a blowout game, which I did not expect, still a lot of penalties flying, and that kind of scares me going to the Celebration Bowl because South Carolina caps at penalties. They'll force you to do it instead of themselves. So I feel like those are one of those things that they will have to clean up when we do get there. But I'm genuinely impressed with Jackson State and their win. Southern putting up a good season, end of the season 8-5, better than what they did expected. But Jackson State is just a powerhouse. You're just looking at the quarterback. You're looking at that wide receiver room. I saw nothing but weapons, and I'm so proud that they decided to show up in this game and to try to come back to the Celebration Bowl. Like I said, just some stuff you just can't teach. I just still see some sloppy plays. I still see some sloppy fourth downs, a lot of conversion errors in this game. Even though I did like to see the run game developing, I did like to see that they're trying to think of what we're going to do while we're playing against South Carolina State. An impressive game, even on the stat sheet. But to me, I just feel like there was just some technical issues that Jackson State could do better at. But a well done game. Whatever happens after the Celebration Bowl, I know that they deserve it. A lot of talk when it came to the rivalry weekend amongst last week, but also college playoffs with Georgia and Clemson or whatever. A lot of talk, and I love that they're getting that. But hopefully Jackson State comes back next season better, but hopefully they do have really, really good success because what are we, 4 days out from the Celebration Bowl this weekend on Saturday? So, hey, I'm excited. This is, not the matchup I wanted to see, but a good matchup within itself. Both of these underdog stories are going to be great.
Listen, I knew that ultimately, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you because I can't lie to you because you've been doing this show with me this whole entire season. Okay. I'm not going to act like I didn't think it was going to be FAMU in North Carolina Central, but then I saw South Carolina State against FAMU, and what I say from the jump, I said it on Twitter too, so it's documented. I said, I think South Carolina State might make it to the Celebration. Host was like, oh no, Chennis Berry going to have to get in here. I said, what I saw against FAMU, nah, they're going to make it. And what I saw from Jackson State, and that Grambling loss was sort of shocking, especially what Grambling turned into. But I knew that Jackson State ultimately was going to pull out and they were going to make things happen. And when they beat FAMU, there was no one that was going to stop them from getting to that Celebration Bowl, especially not Alabama State, because Alabama State got the defense. They couldn't score on them. They got the defense, but they can't score on Jackson State because you're not going to consistently just run that ball all the time. So this game was everything I thought it would be, Arielle. No disrespect to Southern, blue blood HBCU program, but I knew it was going to be a blowout. And I remember that one time, Arielle, like this is about a couple months ago, we were texting, and it's the obligatory Saturday text. My phone be dry, okay? My phone be dry. When someone texts me, I'm like, did I do something wrong? Did I think something wrong? Did it tweet out? Like, what's going on? People, it's not my mom. Like, what the world? So Arielle texts me on a Saturday, and she's like, yeah, like I'm thinking, like it's the news, the North Carolina Central UNC game, and it was Alcorn versus Edward Waters. I said, Arielle, I gave you the score. Alcorn's going to beat Edward Waters by this score. And you said, we going to see, because you thought it was going to be an upset. And you were like, how'd you predict this? I'm like, I just got it like that. I just knew. You know what I'm saying? I just knew. You know what I'm saying? So I should have predicted 41-13. I should have predicted that. But
you were close.
I was.
You were close. I said 2 touchdowns just because Jackson State has so many self-inflicted wounds. But you knew better. You've been knowing better. I told you you've been that so Randall. You saw it. You said, no, this is going to be a 30-point blowout. And I just wouldn't believe you. But you were right. You were right.
Hilarious. I mean, but this game, I mean, you like, listen, I thank you. Because I'm just, because it was so clear to me. Because I was telling a lot of people. They were like, no, Southern's going to win this game. They're better. And Southern did improve. But Southern, to me, I just think that they need to get more like Jackson State this year in having a more balanced offensive attack. Because they were moving the ball pretty well in the first half. But I just think that they need to be predicated on a more balanced attack instead of just consistently running the ball. Because I think that, to me, against the better teams in the SWAC and out-of-conference opponents, that's what precluded them. And Jackson State, to me, the improvement is that they always had the running game. We talked about it last year with Irv Mulligan. Like, we talked about it in the Orange Blossom Classic. We did a whole entire breakdown of him and how great he is. Like, Irv Mulligan is that guy. You have a great running back room. You have Jacoby and Morgan and all these different quarterbacks. But here's the thing that was so interesting is that the quarterback went down. It's almost like Georgia and Texas. Quarterback went down. Both of them, actually. You had Jacoby and Morgan that went down, got injured. You had Zy McDonald that came in, and he got injured. And they still won 41-13. 110 passing yards, 75 for Zy McDonald. And you got 35 for Xavier Morgan. Jacoby and Morgan. 15 attempts, 8 of 15. But they rushed 50 times for 275 yards. And then you have 4 touchdowns on the ground. Irv Mulligan, 23 carries, 116 yards. I can run the ball, but also I can pass that ball. And I think that that's the reason why Jackson State is going back to the Celebration Bowl. And ultimately, when they beat FAMU, it was inevitable. And it is so funny, Arielle, because, you know, oftentimes I have a lot of time to reflect, and I'll go back and I'll think about different stuff. And I remember when Deion left Jackson State, and it's been 2 years ago, you know, like a while back. It was like on, I think, December the 4th, 2022, when it was announced he was leaving. And we did an episode like days after that happened. And we did a segment that said, should Jackson State go get a celebrity coach, or should they just get like a seasoned type of coach? And both of us said they should go just get like your run-of-the-mill, quote-unquote, HBCU coach. And that was when the TC Taylor news was like, hey, well, Ed Reed is in the run-in. They might try to go get Ray Lewis, XYZ, even though I don't think they had a lot of causation. But Ed Reed clearly did, because he said it did himself. But TC Taylor was getting a lot of rumblings of TC Taylor might be the guy. And I ran down what he did in North Carolina Central and his coaching experience. And ultimately, he was picked. And we called it, Arielle. We were like, hey, well, actually, no, you were down on him. I'm not like, you were down, Jackson. You were down on him. You're like, I don't know. Well, like, I was like, yeah, you were down on him. Well, I was like, I said that they're probably going to win 6-7 games. Like, I had said they went 7-4 that first year. It was so clear what was going to happen. Because here's what I think happens when it comes to programs like Jackson State, right? Is you have Jackson State that is a proud HBCU program. Like you have Walter Payton, Robert Brazile, that 1974 historic Jackson State team. We have the teams in the 90s that are doing their thing, the teams in the early 2000s that are doing their thing. But they went through like a 10-year span, a decade where they weren't doing what they needed to do on the field. They had a lot of coaching turnover, and Deion gets that job. This is why you want transformative coaches in the position, because I'm not going to say Deion's the reason why Jack State's going to Celebration Bowl. He is not, because all those players, as we talked about, left. They went in the transfer portal when Deion left. But what Deion did was instill winning back into that program, and a foundation was TC Taylor built upon that and did it his own way. Got in his own recruits. Herb Mulligan was a TC Taylor recruit. He didn't come for Deion. He came for TC Taylor. You have Jacoby and Morgan that came over for TC Taylor. You have all these different players that TC Taylor and that staff built and developed, got from the transfer portal, got as high school recruits. You have a fan base that's really fired up to support Jackson State, and that's the reason why they're going back to the Celebration Bowl in a rematch of the 2021 Celebration Bowl, where they want to redo it and win, or at the very least lose amicably, because they didn't lose amicably last time. So just for me, the game was the game. I knew that would be a blowout, but I'm just proud of Jackson State. And we always talk about how proud we are of these different folks, but I really am, because Jackson State could have folded. They could have. They could have been a horrible program after Deion left. Deion took everything. Deion took some of the Powerade that was in the locker room. He took everything. And they rebuilt that program. TC Taylor's an alumnus of Jackson State, and they were able to build a winner. So for me, no matter what happens on Saturday, I am proud of them, because this is how you do it. Because you got to give love to Deion for building that winning tradition that was always there. But TC Taylor, as an alum, he was the perfect person for that job, because he loves Jackson State. He graduated from Jackson State. He played football for Jackson State. He got his experience at all the other places. Then he was on Deion's coaching staff, and then came in and took them to the Celebration Bowl. And I honestly think, if we're talking about a future outlook, they're going to be tough for a minute. FAMU, they're going to get back right. Alabama State, if Eddie Robinson Jr. learns to protect the quarterback, that'll be great. But Jackson State, they're going to keep doing their thing. And I'm just happy, Arielle. I just really am for them.
I think what we can say throughout, all the mistakes and, me kind of weighing down on them, you are right. And I think the motto for Jackson State this year was just find a way to win. Just do it. And you've seen that with every game that they've played. Some of them blow out, some of them scrapping out of the fourth quarter. But each game has been won. But two, they went 11-2 this season. So in that sense, when you look at Jackson State, and when you look at 2 years later after Deion Sanders has left, they've been amazing. And not saying, thank you to Deion for just putting that spotlight, but I would really say TC Taylor really made those boys. Because the Deion Sanders era left. Everybody left. Literally everybody left. Then you had TC Taylor who had to go out and recruit for himself, build new plays for himself, build new coaching staff for himself, build new connections, build new people that would come in and donate to that team, that would give to that team. And his hard work is paying off. And I hope that he continues to be on this platform, because I personally think, and not to go ahead and jump into our next segment, I don't think this is his year to win the Celebration Bowl. I think that we are going to see an underdog run with South Carolina State, them getting back on top of the MEAC maybe. I know North Carolina State, they still have Walker Harris and not a lot of outcoming graduates this year. They'll still have that team. He'll still have that defense for just another year. But what TC Taylor had done, I think he should take out of this game and what he's done this whole season and be like, hey, I have my dogs. I know what I'm doing. We're going to re-up on next year. We're going to stop all the penalties. We're going to play nicer, a cleaner game. And maybe they can go undefeated like how they did in their first season when they got Deion Sanders. This can be an exceptional next year for this coach. But I want him to have this win. I want him to know that South Carolina State wasn't an easy target, but it was a smoother target just to sail them through to the Celebration Bowl this weekend, because like you said, they did put up a fight. They were almost trailing. Well, Jackson State could have trailed over Southern just in that first quarter, just because they really were putting on that defense, but then just took off going no scores for the third quarter. But I would say that this is just in itself an exceptional season for him, an exceptional season for Jackson State, and they should take it. Going to the Celebration Bowl with as much energy as you can, win or lose. I think TC Taylor has a job, honestly, for the next 5 years. If he doesn't decide to leave. That's up to him. Success can be anywhere, but we love to keep it in the HBCU family.
I think he's gonna stay for a minute. Like I think, especially if he wins the Celebration Bowl on Saturday, he's stamped. Like he could be Eddie Robinson if you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Now that'd be impossible because he had to lift. He's like 120. You know, like what Eddie Robinson did. You know what I'm saying? Robinson did for like 56 years. But like, I think he's already stamped. I mean, just look at what he did with that program. Like year one, I know because a lot of people look at that 7-4 season and they lost to Alcorn last year. It's like that's not impressive. But it is like, because number one, that's a winning season. I mean, yeah, they weren't in the SWAC championship. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, you know, like they didn't make it to the Celebration Bowl. And yeah, they lost to their rival. They lost to FAMU in a demoralizing fashion in the Orange Blossom Classic last year. But at the same time, there were building blocks. And I always talk about this, is you have to celebrate the incremental progress. And I think that that's what a lot of sports fans don't understand, because inherently within sports, you have an understanding of business, an understanding of strategy, an understanding of managing people and managing emotions that we have to understand as sports fans. We never quantify it. We just see it as, oh, well, like LeBron might need to leave the Lakers, or Darvin Ham needs to be fired because the team has given up on him. But what are we saying? We're saying that morale is low. We're saying, can Darvin Ham as a leader effectively manage this group of people? Like, so as sports fans, we're talking about something higher, but we don't act like we do. So if we look here at what Jackson State is, I want to see incremental progress. If you're at your job and you're like, hey, listen, we started here, but we got here, and we're not where we want to be, but next year, based on the foundation that I built, based on the players that I brought in, we're going to be that. You deal with that at work. You deal with that anywhere. I deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you look at Jackson State, like TC Taylor, he is building a program, in my opinion, that is going to be contending for a minute. Because I really, because I don't know where FAMU really goes. And now you have Willie Simmons at FIU. Who's to say James Coley's going to be there? I'm pretty sure he probably will be. But who's to say he doesn't become the DC at FIU? Like, who's to say that, you know, that coaching staff doesn't go elsewhere? Like, who's to say there's not another coach at FAMU? Like, you don't know. Like, Alabama State, like, Ed Robinson Jr. is probably going to still be there, but who's to say that he doesn't lose this run-first situation when he probably could have been in this position that Jackson State is in, or at very least contended better with them if he had a competent passing attack? But I just think that with Jackson State, they did it the right way. And I think a lot of people don't like to give them that credit. Like, I want to, you know what I'm saying? I feel like we're doing that, and I'm just very excited for them. And I think that this is the best outcome of the Celebration Bowl that we could have gotten based on what we had, because I believe that for me, in transitioning into the Celebration Bowl, we're both real big on story, right? And people don't like to talk about it. They're like, oh, these guys are just playing. They're going to be on ABC. You got the trilogy, okay? We call it in wrestling the trilogy, all right? Calling in movies too, the trilogy. You got Buddy Pugh and the MEAC, because the MEAC helped him. All the MEAC coaches was like, this is how you beat Dion. Beat Jackson State, 31-10, 2021, okay? Then MEAC SWAC Challenge, incidentally, last year, Jackson State versus South Carolina State. Everybody's like, oh, Buddy Pugh is going to run through Jackson State. And we found out, number one, that he's retiring, okay? Then number two, that didn't happen because TC Taylor and crew, in his first game, they beat South Carolina State down. Now, you bring in, like not this, at this point, South Carolina's finest. Arguably the best Division II HBCU coach into Buddy Pugh's system, essentially. And he already has his South Carolina connects. He already has Eric Phoenix, who left Benedict because Aeneas Dennis was the quarterback, but he left and went to Murray State. Eric Phoenix still had eligibility, came in as a grad transfer, and became one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in HBCU football this year. Caden Hyde, DeAndre Duhart, KZ Adams. And now he's back, dominated the MEAC, Jackson State, beat their rival in FAMU, beat Alabama State, beat Southern, their heated rival, twice, beat Alcorn. Now they're here. You can't get better than this, Aria. This is ABC. This is in the afternoon. Okay, this is it. I don't. I'm excited. So Arielle, like I just want to know, like, what do you think? This is the trilogy. This is round 3 for all the marbles. Arielle, what do you think's gonna happen? Like, what's your thoughts?
I think this was actually be the first year that I don't get to see the Celebration Bowl because coincidentally, I will be at A&T's graduation.
Oh, okay, look at
on that
you.
on that day. So I'll be celebrating twice. I'll be celebrating A&T graduate thousands of overachieving students and adding a new program and seeing the excellence of the new dean while trying to simultaneously watch and hope. I'm actually glad I'm not going to be in Atlanta. Atlanta has been packed. I'm tired. But simultaneously try to watch South Carolina State maybe pull off one of the most historic Cinderella seasons that I have seen in a while. Like, this should literally be Chris Paul's next documentary, what South Carolina State has done within its first year of the season. What a crazy storyline, if you really think about it. But I'm excited. Like this, like I said, and like I think we both said, I really, 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 just from the bottom of my heart, really wanted to see Central run it back. But that first loss to South Carolina State really just kind of trampled the rest of their season, some other stuff that had happened. But I mean, congratulations to Walker Harris and his entire team. Congratulations to them, what they were doing. It goes without showing that whole school, what Central is doing, what they've become, is never going to stop. But Chennis Berry against TC Taylor, I think it's the storyline that honestly we actually wanted. And if we're getting into this, like I said earlier before, Jackson State just really has to control those penalties because South Carolina State will play on them. I think what people don't, and I think I said this a couple episodes ago, what people are really sleep on is the special teams for South Carolina State. They are absolutely incredible. And we've seen a few kickoff returns for a touchdown this season. We've seen a lot of interceptions. Please do not sleep on South Carolina State special team. But if we're looking at Jackson State, you name some of their games. If we're looking at them against Southern, who they actually played earlier this season, what they did against Grambling, what they did against A&M, what they did against Texas Southern. Like, you're looking at all these games and how they've played, and they've dominated all those games that I listed. And that's one thing that Jackson State knows how to do. They know how to read your weaknesses. They know how to have an impressive run game. They do RPOs really, really well. Their quarterback is very decisive. Like I said, the only thing that I personally just have a problem with is really just how they play, just the penalties that can stack up and stack up and stack up. But when you're looking at Mulligan, and then you're looking at some of their other really, really big stars, you're looking at Spencer, you're looking at Dupree, there's a whole offensive lineup that is stacked against South Carolina State. And the one thing that I think they also have that people may not be thinking about is this is their third time being back in 4 years. They ran it back twice, missed a year, and now they're running it back again. They know what it is to be in the Celebration Bowl. They know what it is to mentally focus on the competition on that day. You're playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, one of the largest stadiums in NFL. So they know what's going to do. This is Chennis Berry's first time here in the MEAC as a D1 division coach with a whole new team, despite what he did this season. It's going to take more than Eric Phoenix. It's going to take more than Kadarius Adams. It's going to take more than this whole really, really good running back room and nice, hefty, and we've seen it, them hefty boys on that D-line to really stop Jackson State, because Jackson State isn't just playing you on a physical level. They're going to play you on a mental level. And I can see it in some of those South Carolina State players on certain big stages. Yes, you beat your PWIs. Yes, you beat the odds. But the Celebration Bowl is a completely different beast. You have to go in there knowing your competition. And I'm not saying Chennis Berry isn't going to do great. You know him coming from a Division II coach. He's built those players. He's done the recruitment. He's done the work. The only thing that I can see that's just a downfall of them is just never being there in that position and necessarily not playing Jackson State off of what they came on post Deion Sanders. Because to me, I feel like they're a little bit tougher. They're a little bit greedier. They're a little bit more dogs. It's just sometimes they can be sloppy like dogs, and that's okay. But South Carolina State has never been in this environment before. So we're going to have to see if they could really make this whole season turn into a Celebration Bowl win. I could see them losing by a touchdown. Just by a touchdown. But I know South Carolina State is not going to come in here and make any mistakes. Jackson State just has to make sure that they're clean. And also remember, this is your third time coming back within 4 years. What do you really have to lose if you keep making it every year? For the exception of one.
So South Carolina State by a touchdown.
By a touch. They could lose by a touchdown.
Oh, they could lose. Okay. So we go. Okay. So we go wait for the pick. We go pick. We go pick it and say, okay.
I don't see Jackson State literally blowing them out. This is Chenisberry we're talking about. Put respect on that man's name. However, I can just see this being new, and Jackson State sometimes pulls out some crazy plays when it comes to championship play. Losing by a touchdown. I don't know winning a lot. I mean, this is Jackson State. We got to respect them too. But this could really go either way. But we do have two great teams, but I'm not seeing a lot of faults. They both have a really stacked offense. They both, I would say the defensive line for Jackson State is a little bit quicker. And just South Carolina State just has some really big dudes. They're just hefty. They're just strong. And, you know, being in South Carolina, whatever they eat, whatever they're doing down there, whatever hot sun that they're in, it makes sense that they would have those big boys. But I don't see a lot of cons for the both of them. I see a lot of pros, and this is probably the battle that we've been waiting for. I wouldn't mind if this was a high-scoring game. I would love to see the score in the 40s. Let's just go head for head. Whoever gets the last ball, that's who's going to win the game.
I don't know if it'll be high scoring. I think that it'll probably be, if it becomes what that game with FAMU and Howard became last year, that was 30-26. I don't think it exceeds that. If it does, I can see that. But I would think that if it's a high scoring game, I think I trust South Carolina State to come out on top more. I just think that for me, South Carolina State, I don't think that the lights are going to deter Chenisberry, that coaching staff, or the team. Because I think that, yes, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, great stadium. Yes, this is a Celebration Bowl. Yes, it's on ABC, and Jackson State's going to turn up in the ATL. They're going to turn up. They were setting attendance records like when in 21 and 22, and they're back, and it's going to be in Atlanta, right? But I don't think that they are going to be deterred. I think that Chenisberry is a very disciplined coach. I think he's instilled a level of discipline and making the main thing, as a lot of coaches like to say, and this 1-0 mentality, going 1-0. Like, this isn't just the Celebration Bowl. They're going 1-0. And they've had the time to sort of rest, to kick back, to decompose, to get themselves together. And you have a Jackson State that's still sort of like, you know, playing through and playing shape, and hopefully Jacoby and Morgan will be fine, and also Zach McDonald. But I just honestly think that South Carolina State is going to win this. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either, because I think that when we look at 2021, I think that you had a Jackson State team that was very finesse. They were very much so a finesse team, almost like Colorado is sort of a finesse team. They're not necessarily, I don't see like Jackson State with Deion that first year or Colorado as gritty. They were very talented. They were skilled. You had Shador back there. You had some nifty receivers. Because I think Deion really liked speed in his receivers, and on that offense, he liked speed. South Carolina State was gritty because that's just sort of what Buddy Pugh always had and instilled in his players. They were gritty. They had a huge offensive line, a huge defensive line, like you talked about, and they just beat up Jackson State in a way they hadn't been beat up. Shador was running around. He was getting a preview of what Colorado looked like that first year. He was just running around, you know, like, because he couldn't get a clean pocket and do what he needed to do, because Buddy Pugh, they figured out a weakness and they were able to exploit that for the rest of the game, and Deion and his coaching staff had no adjustment. This year is different, and this is not necessarily an original thought from me, but a lot of people are talking about how TC's, well, he coached in the MEAC. He graduated from Jackson State, but he coached in the MEAC. And you look at that Jackson State team, you just talked about it. That's a rough and rugged team. That's a rough and rugged defense. That secondary is really good. So this isn't some cutesy, oh, throw the ball, yay, we're gonna get a touchdown, we're gonna celebrate at the end zone. No, these guys are tough. These guys will sack you. Like they will put you on the ground, they'll put you in the dirt, and then do the seatbelt, time. They're like, hey, seatbelt. You know what I'm saying? That's what they seatbelt. They like, you know what I'm saying? Like they'll score a touchdown. Well, I thought that's for the defense. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's what they do. So this game to me is going to be so different because you have a competent running attack, especially with Herb Mulligan at Jackson State, that I think he's going to have a game. But you have KZ Adams, you have DeAndre Duhart, they're going to have a game. Jacoby Morgan, if he plays, I like his quarterback play, but I think Eric Phoenix, who is already the FCS and HBCU Plus National Player of the Year for that inaugural award, so he's honestly probably been the best HBCU quarterback in the nation. And he has this dual threat ability to run, to pass. I think that Eric Phoenix is going to ultimately win that quarterback battle. And Caden High is probably an X factor because he's so dynamic as a route runner. But I ultimately believe this is going to be a rough and rugged game. Like people are going to look and they going to think this Ole Miss versus University of South Carolina. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, we need to return to the HBCU game because these guys playing like it's SEC football. Like I'm telling, I think that is what it's going to be. And if it is that game, I am sorry, South Carolina State's going to win that because that's what Chennis Berry come from. That is ingrained within the DNA of South Carolina State to be rough and rugged. And while Jackson State is going to contend with that, and I'm not trying to hedge my bets, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson State pulled it out, and I'd be very happy for them. Especially because you know me, I'm be like, oh, I thought y'all said they couldn't win without Deion. I'll be the main one saying that, and they'll come get me on Twitter. They'll come get me. But like, I'm just saying. But with Chennis Berry and South Carolina State, I just think that a physical game, a rough game, benefits them, and I think that they know through their physicality, through the roughness of the offensive line and defensive line and protecting Eric Phoenix and then going and stopping your run game, going and sacking your quarterback. I think they're going to control the game. And TC and Jackson State are going to have to play with the cards that that South Carolina State has given them. So while I agree with you, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. If anything, it's going to be maybe 1 to 2 touchdowns, if even that much. But I think it's going to be a close game. But South Carolina State is going to win because they're going to control the flow of the game. Eric Phoenix is going to have a game. Caden High is going to get a crazy touchdown. I can see maybe a kickoff return or something like that for South Carolina State that's going to energize them. But I think ultimately Chennis Berry is going to win this trilogy and build his case as one of the legendary HBCU coaches. He is already. But he's going to be that like 5-10 years. Oh, legendary.
Hey, you got a point. I hear it.
So let's put this on record. So you're picking South Carolina State.
I am.
By 1 touchdown.
By 1 touchdown.
I am too. So we're wrong. We're both wrong. Just like the majority of the year.
I mean, this is the only game that counts. This is the only game that actually really matters. You know, championships games mean a lot. You feel me? So listen, I'll take it.
They do. And before we move on, this is how our picks look because we had technical difficulties for some of the weeks.
Yeah.
So through 121 games, we both got Southern right. I was Southern Jackson State right. Jackson State won. I'm 98-33. And you are 94-37. So, you know, we were successful.
I'll finish. I'll accept that season. I'll finish with that. I'll accept it. Not bad.
And you got to think about it. It could have been worse because we would have picked FAMU over Mississippi Valley. It could have been worse.
Yeah, if we didn't. I think us having technical issues was a blessing in disguise because at that point, I'm not going to lie to you, that would have been my 13th reason on top of all the 13 reasons that we went through that week. And I would have quit. I would not be here today.
So I just said, like, so that, you know, so that's what we fared as. We know a little something. And my favorite pick was the fact I chose South Carolina State over North Carolina Central. Like that really helped me out a little bit.
I was, you know, that game still makes me, you know, a little hurt. It's just Trey Oliver to me really, I'm not saying that, you know, Chennis Berry doesn't deserve it. He really does. But I would argue, and I could argue that I think Trey Oliver really, it would have been nice to see him this Saturday. But I know they'll be back eventually. I think they proved it this season, especially with the talks of how you were going to train this quarterback who is only a pocket passer, who does not like to run, who isn't as skilled as our beloved Davius Richard. And the transformation that he did with Walker Harris this season and what he's going to do in his sophomore season. Remember, this man he still has 3 years with Trey Oliver. It's going to be great. I think that in itself is success. Building a quarterback that you still have for 3 years is successful enough. But I mean, all proud to them. It would have really been nice to see Trey Oliver try to come back in this season. But it's fine. Chennisberry, don't let us down. MEAC forever. Listen, the SWAC can try if they want to take the Celebration Bowl, but I'm just saying, MEAC, we just be running numbers. I need you to bring your baddest coach out. Because y'all tried and y'all still lost. So I need the SWAC to understand the South has something to say. Just saying.
You're gonna get me in trouble. You're gonna get me in trouble because I'm gonna say, was Deion the baddest coach? I don't know about that in the SWAC. I don't know. I think Willie Simmons was at that time, to be honest. And then we saw what happened last year. Willie Simmons won that. And now look where he at in FBS. You know what I'm saying? So
He didn't want to run it back. He just wanted to give the SWAC their win and be like, all right, I'm out.
He pieced out. I'm telling you.
He gave y'all. He was like, here, I did it for the SWAC, and whatever how many years it's been since we won a Celebration Bowl, the MEAC, you can have it back. I just needed mine. And that's okay.
Fam, you had won the first Celebration Bowl for the SWAC since Grambling in 2016. And then remember, Grambling went back in 2017 against North Carolina A&T in a game that is now considered lost media because you can find highlights, but it was a good, I remember because
I was there.
You were there. So that Celebration Bowl, and we're going to move on because we're going to talk about Fort Valley in a second, but I was commentating the basketball games for Fort Valley. I had just started commentating those games. It was because I worked with the Tom Joyner Foundation and the athletic director at the time, Dr. Pope. He had, seen me around. I was doing my thing. And he had like 2 football players that were commentating. And they were cool people, but like they weren't like mass comm majors. So I told him the day before, I'm like, hey, if you ever need anything, like, I'm here, like, let me know. And me and my homeboy, we got the opportunity to commentate the games. And we took it so serious that we stayed over like that first week of Christmas break, like almost like this week, for example. Like we stayed over and commentated those games. It was like 3 or 4 games, men and women. And that Saturday was the Celebration Bowl. And Fort Valley was playing Tuskegee. I didn't have a MacBook at the time. Listen, I wasn't as rich as I guess I am now. I got all these Mac products, okay? I had me a refurbished Dell, and it was so heavy. You think I'm working? I'm carrying a block in this North Face book bag. And I'm watching the Celebration Bowl and I'm commentating the game. That game was actually really good considering. You had Devontae Kincaid, Lamar Raynard, and the crew, and you cannot find that game anywhere. And ESPN, they don't show those Celebration Bowls. So we'll probably never see that again. At some point, you have to transfer your memory to the TV. Okay? It's at some point.
I still have that game on my old phone. So like sometimes I go through and I watch like the Instagram or the Snapchat stories that I took of it. But probably one of the best Celebration Bowls that I've been to in my life.
You've been to a few. Okay. You've been to a few.
I mean, it's so convenient that everybody wants to come to Atlanta to celebrate. It is. It becomes an inconvenience when you get all the traffic. Yeah. But just having everybody want to celebrate and do championships in your city, it's just like, who am I to tell you no? As long as I can get a ticket, it is what it is.
So that's a great segue talking about North Carolina A&T. Okay. Because Vincent Brown is gone, and we talked ad nauseum about Vincent Brown being gone. And Arielle, you can attest to this. We started doing this show in 2021, and we started covering HBCU football. We covered it in 2021 too, but we started covering it heavily in 2022. Okay. And Shawn Gibbs was named the coach of Fort Valley in 2022. Arielle, you remember what I always said? And I always teased about. I said Shawn Gibbs going to be the next North Carolina A&T coach. I knew that. I knew it. I knew he was not staying for a long time. He was staying for a good time, not a long time. He was staying to get the resume up, and that he did. And Vincent Brown didn't hold down his end of the deal because we needed Vincent Brown to be good so Shawn Gibbs could stay a little bit longer. Okay? And he wasn't. So now Shawn Gibbs is the head coach of North Carolina A&T. Okay, let's get that. Shawn Gibbs is the head coach of North Carolina A&T. I got my Fort Valley sweatshirt on, my favorite one with the stitch, and that's an F. That's a flame, but it's also an F. And like this is a V. You think it's about Austin State? I didn't go to Austin State. I went to Fort Valley. You know, but yeah, like repping. You know, so it's I'm ready.
I'm gonna save it for our post conversation because I'm just trying to figure out what the flame has to do with Fort Valley.
Well, this is the internal flame. The flame is always burning because like our logo was our founders hall bell tower. So in 2019 we did a revamp to our branding for the university under Dr. Jones, and it was about igniting the flame. And I think that it actually is something that's good as far as the symbolism, and also empowering the possible. Our motto is empowering the possible, and this is supposed to be the flame that continues to burn. And now there's like a burning flame at Fort Valley. It's like a tower that's right by Bond and where the amphitheater is that they built after I graduated, of course. Then you have Pettigrew. Like it's like this tower. Like it's a cool symbolism where like the light of the valley, and it's always burning, the eternal flame. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what it is.
I'm gonna hold my comments so I don't sound ignorant, but like I do like the concept. It has nothing to do with y'all school. I do like the concept. That's a good concept. You know.
Now I'll be honest with you, Arielle. When we saw the logo, we were like, "Oh, so we're about Austin State now?" Because they see the V, like we're about Austin State now.
But it makes sense for the sake of not getting off topic right now. So of just
this is very much. Let's just talk about Fort Valley. Let's not talk about Shawn Gibbs.
Listen, I mean, Shawn Gibbs, he already has a history with A&T, but I have to go back to your first comment. To Vincent Brown, who did spend 2 seasons with us. Like I said, to me, I don't think it was him. Watching these games, and I do believe that you can see on aspects of trying to teach the game of football or trying to get into the heads of your players can be hard. And I wouldn't say that necessarily his coaching abilities were in question, but I would say his recruitment abilities are in question. And what I think led to him being let go, or for A&T to replace him with Shawn Gibbs. I would not say that he is about coach. I would not say that he is not educated in the sport of football. He actually was a coach in this division, the CAA, for another team. It's just he was not as successful as he was at A&T. So I would not say that he has no skills. I would not say that he wasn't good at his job, but I feel like the important aspects, which was to find people after your first season that could develop a winning season, to make sure that these boys were skillful enough or had skillful people around them. As a coach, I can't fault you for that. But what I cannot fault him for is trying to make them better, working them hard in practice, and trying to give them insight to a division that he has played in before. So I don't want, if he does listen to this episode, whatever he may say, or the audience that does get this, we are not saying, or I am not saying, not to speak for you, I am not saying that he is a bad coach. And to me, that he was fired because he could not produce. I think the reason why they let him go was just because you were not doing a recruitment effort nor a push effort to try to make A&T better. That's just me, because Vincent Brown can coach his butt off. I was about to get fined. Vincent Brown can coach his butt off. I've seen it. He's a great coach. It's just he didn't have much success trying to lead people in to create a better team. That's just me. But now you going back to Shawn Gibbs, who I can say I'm very excited. I reposted. I did everything to let people know that A&T is back in our winning season. We're making a comeback. This man has spent 11 seasons with us underneath great coaches that we had. He was the running back coach, the one that actually grew Tariq Cohen. He was part of 2 of those Celebration Bowls. He knows what it means to win. And technically, if you're thinking about it, he just knows A&T and the boys and what we can do and what we cannot do. And I know that he's seen that we've lost our running back room. We lost really speedy people. We aren't stabilizing the quarterback position. So in a sense, even though they parted ways and he's coming back, this to me is going to be one of the most challenging off seasons and maybe a rough start in the preseason, the first 2 games that Shawn Gibbs could ever imagine. I could be wrong, but he is literally starting over. I feel like, and it's wrong to say, but if he wants to be like Denzel in this or Remember the Titans, he can scratch the entire team and pull people that he wants. Because the past 2 teams that we have had have been terrible, to say. Not trying to question anybody's ability, not trying to be anything, but there's a difference between great players and good players. And I feel like we've just been riding the line between mediocre and well enough for way too long. And if you decide to stay in the CAA, you have to get a coach and you have to get players that are going to make a difference against high performing teams. We're not playing South Carolina State anymore. We're not playing North Carolina Central. We're not playing Jackson State. We're not playing Grambling. We're not playing Alcorn. We are playing heavy defensive, big, powerful teams. And in order to do that, I think you need to start with the coach that knows what it means to win. So bringing Shawn Gibbs back is an exceptional choice. We always wanted him. That's who you should have got. And A&T always likes to do stuff backwards, but I'm glad that they figured it out before they go into a 3rd season, and now all the alums are pulling their money because you don't want to produce a great football team. That being said, like I said, he has a lot to go through. We need a good quarterback. Haven't had a good quarterback in 2 years. So sorry. That's just how I feel. That's just my tea. We have not had a great quarterback. That's the main thing that you have to look out for. Everything else will fall in line. Literally, it will fall in line. People will follow a good quarterback. We've seen it with Eric Phoenix. We've seen it at Howard. We've seen it at North Carolina Central. People will follow a good quarterback. Once you get your quarterback, you can start putting the pieces together. Personally, to me, I feel like an offense you can always build, but a defense is something that you have to have from the jump. So I would start my recruiting with a really nice defense. You can't allow the other team to try to score on you, make all these plays at the other end of the field. I think that's where you need to start, and then everything else will come together. But Shawn Gibbs knows what he's doing. I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that he's taking what he has had with A&T, and there's no bad blood, because how everything went down 2 years ago was a little messy. But now we might be back in order, and I'm glad that he's coming from good roots, a real nice Fort Valley State. I know you just been waiting for that. I know you have.
You are like the first North Carolina A&T alum to even acknowledge what school he came from, outside of just saying, well, he was at Fort Valley, but A&T, this and that, Celebration Bowls, that was won 5 years ago when Randall graduated from Fort Valley. Like, can people acknowledge the fact, like, he wasn't just sitting on his couch all of a sudden, Shawn Gibbs, it's time. And it's like a TV show, he walks in with the 18-year-old. Like I said, this ain't a movie. He just sitting back, his beard is grown, he can't shave it like Jack Bauer in 24, now he's back. No, he's been employed a place for the past 3 seasons, and it seems like people just gloss past that. So first, let me just say, just to make sure that for the flame, like the logo, this is what Fort Valley and the branding kit says. This says the icon harkens back to FVSU's early nickname as the light in the valley and is designed to be perceived as an abstract torch. It symbolizes the enlightenment made possible through the knowledge students gain and faculty expand at FVSU by converting the F in Fort and the V in Valley into a flame and a torch base, respectively. The icon was developed to visually convey the university's storied past and continued commitment to leading the way in academic excellence and hands-on research in Georgia. The icon in its entirety is symbolic of an illuminated beacon guiding the way for students, alumni, and the community. So this is what this is. And that is what Shawn Gibbs is going to be at North Carolina A&T. Listen, Shawn Gibbs is at Fort Valley for the past 3 seasons. I know people want to act like a Division II football. That's just Pop Warner. Like, oh, that's middle school football. We ain't worried about that. Even though Chennis Berry done ran through your whole conference. He's an SIC graduate, by the way. He done ran through the whole MEAC. And he beat A&T as well. And he beat Shawn Gibbs at Fort Valley too, by the way, at South Carolina State. So it's like this, these Division II, Eric Davis was the best quarterback in the nation, and he's the inaugural HBCU plus player of the year. These Division II guys. But let me tell you about Shawn Gibbs, okay? Let me tell you about a Shawn Gibbs that people, when he was coming into Fort Valley, he was like, that guy was a running back coach. Like, we want a coordinator. We want someone that actually has called plays while we bringing in Shawn Gibbs. But the folks that are tapped into HBCU football, they knew, Shawn Gibbs tough because he comes from that Rod Broadway coaching tree. He saw success. We would bring up how he's mentored running backs in North Carolina A&T. He mentored and helped develop Tyreek Cohen that went on to the NFL. A lot of folks is like, he's young, like he's a running back coach. We don't want no running back coach from North Carolina A&T. We want somebody experienced. Well, you had Maurice Flowers, who's an amazing coach. That's experience, and he went to Johnson C. Smith, had an amazing season, but for Fort Valley, he was not there long enough to really build out our program. But here's what he did. He brought in Kelvin Durham. He brought in Emmanuel Wilson. He brought in Shamar Bridges. Shamar Bridges ultimately goes to the NFL. He didn't get drafted, but he played for the Ravens for a little bit. I think he's in the Canadian Football League, and he ultimately got injured. That's his final season at Fort Valley. But he brings in Kelvin Durham, who was a red shirt with Flowers back in the 21 season. And Kelvin Durham stayed at Fort Valley. Emmanuel Wilson came from Johnson C. Smith, transferred over to Fort Valley, and he's playing with the Packers right now. That was a Flowers recruit. It was a lot of those different offensive weapons that were Flowers guys. That first season, we beat Albany State. We could have gone to the FCS playoffs. The SIAC was in a divisional format. You had the SIAC East and the SIAC West. So Benedict, Chennis Berry was there. They ran the gambit in the East. In the West, you had Tuskegee. Even though we beat Tuskegee in 2022, they ran the gambit in the West. So that first SIC championship was Tuskegee and Benedict. Shawn Gibbs could have made it to the to the Division II playoffs, but he lost. And I was at this game. He lost to Savannah State, and Adams. I think Jaden Adams is his name. Like, he had a crazy run. He went crazy. That was Michael Vick out there. Okay, he was making it happen. That was Michael Vick. That was Lamar Jackson. We had Emmanuel Wilson going crazy, but we couldn't do nothing. That was actually in Macon. I actually went to that game. So we couldn't do anything with that. We had an amazing season. We didn't go to the playoffs, and we talked about it at that time when we were doing the show. And then on top of that, it's like we didn't go to the championship. So the next year, you lose Emmanuel Wilson, because Emmanuel Wilson, he made the right decision, and he goes to the NFL. He didn't get drafted, but he was with the Broncos, and then now he's with the Packers, and now he's like RB2 for them, right? So we lose our NFL running back that Maurice Flowers did bring in, that Shawn Gibbs was really working with. So we go on, we're winning games, we're dominant, but we run into an Albany State team that we should have beat, because we were better than Albany State that year. We had Kelvin Durham, who was an amazing quarterback. Kelvin had 2 uncharacteristic interceptions that honestly, anybody in Fort Valley, even Shawn Gibbs, would have won it back. We would have won that game. We would have gone to Benedict and probably lost by more than we did the other 2 times, okay? Let's be for real. Benedict was really good, okay? We wouldn't have won that game, but would have done better than Albany State. Let's be for real. We would have done better than Albany State. Like, Albany State just went there. They just laid down after that first possession. They just laid down. Okay, so boom. So we go to the Florida Beach Bowl, okay, the inaugural Florida Beach Bowl, all right? And we beat Johnson C. Smith, and we got our lip back because Maurice Flowers left. He said, here these players, deuces, I'm going home. He went back to Johnson C. Smith, and we said, you know what? We got some for you, Coach Flowers. Shout out to you. Shout out to you for your success. 23-10. Give us that Florida Beach Bowl. We haven't won anything as far as the championship since 2016. So give us that Florida Beach Bowl. Thank you, sir. So now we're coming back, and we're like, all right, this is the year, okay? Because I knew when I was looking at the recruiting and I was looking at what A&T had going on, I was like, boy, we ain't keeping Shawn Gibbs no time soon. Shawn Gibbs gonna be the next North Carolina A&T coach. Oh, when I saw that Winston-Salem score, I was like, boy, Shawn Gibbs, you want me to help you pack? Because you ain't staying at Fort Valley. You ain't staying at Fort Valley. I'll call Arielle to get your Uber and book your flight, okay? Because she's better at it than me. I've only been on the flight one time. Okay, so it's like Arielle might know better to book a flight, okay? But I'll help you pack, sir, okay? Because you were going up to Greensboro at this point when I saw that Winston-Salem score. But I'm like, listen, just get us over Albany State. Mounds College, I think we can beat them. We didn't play them and get us to the championship. Beat Delta State. We couldn't beat them, but we had a good team. That team was amazing. We give up to Albany State. We still can't beat them. We still can't beat. We beat them that first year. We still can't. We need NFL talent to beat Albany State for some reason. We need NFL talent. We need God to shine down on us, and we need the sun not to shine for us to beat Albany State for some reason. I don't know. And I was like, my God, we lost. We could have went to the championship. We could have gone to the championship for a second year in a row, and maybe even made the playoffs if we just could have. We could have got there. And I knew something in my heart. And maybe it was my eyes seeing North Carolina A&T. I was like, he ain't staying. He's not going to be here. He's not going to be here.
Are you mad or are you happy at us? I'm confused.
I'm confused too. It's a lot because I'm happy because I knew he was not going to be here. And I am very rational about coaches. Oh, I knew he wasn't going to be. I knew he was going to be great at A&T. He was going to get the bag because A&T, listen, all them graduate with Arielle. That graduate's going to be so long. It's going to be all them graduates, like all that money pouring in. And y'all probably got Michelle Obama speaking. She going to open up for Barack at the commencement. Like,
I have no idea actually this year who is speaking. They didn't really advertise it. And I'm like, well, we're not in COVID. Nobody should be virtual. So who's speaking?
Why should it be Beyonce or somebody? Y'all fancy. Why should it be like Beyonce?
Cameron Hall shut it down last year.
She did.
So I actually this year, because I went in spring.
Yeah.
At whoever coming after her.
And at this point, put Shawn Gibbs up there at this point. Like, how will speak to y'all?
Come back, coach. I will. So I do have a question for you. You know, came to A&T, went to Fort Valley State, winning seasons regardless of the outcome, comes back to A&T. And then we were just talking about Chenesbury.
Mm-hmm.
D2 to D1 has a Cinderella season. If you had to choose, if miraculously South Carolina State with Chenesbury had to play against Shawn Gibbs and this new A&T team, who are you choosing to win that game? The silence is deafening. The silence is deafening.
Because this isn't even a fantasy type situation unless Chenesbury goes FBS this year. That's probably gonna happen. And then also Shawn Gibbs is gonna face off against Eddie George if he stays at Tennessee State, which he said he wanted to. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna see A&T versus Tennessee State next year.
Oh,
so I mean,
2025 right now for football.
Yeah. So we're gonna see that. Here's the thing for me.
Okay.
Can I be honest, Arielle? Can I be honest?
Of course.
And Shawn Gibbs, I got a lot of love for Shawn Gibbs, and I'm gonna be rooting for A&T for sure. I'm gonna be watching.
Oh.
There's two things I do want to see on the offense at the very least. I want to see how he recruits, and I want to see if Kelvin Durham goes over to A&T. Because if you got Kelvin Durham, you got a great quarterback. You've got Kelvin Durham. Kelvin Durham is amazing. He has great arm strength. He is a pocket passer, but he's almost like Mahomes almost in the sense that he's a pocket presence, but he has the ability to run. So if he needs to run, he can scramble out, make things happen. So if he goes over, he's the quarterback. I think the quarterback situation probably the best it's been in the past few years. I want to see what his running back's going to look like if Kelvin does go over there, what his quarterback looks like, because Flowers did set up that Fort Valley team for a lot of success. We had some transfer portal hits. We had some guys that left that came in under Flowers, even came in under Gibbs in 2022. I just want to see what that first class looks like. That's the first thing. And I want to see what Coach Gibbs does in those big games, because we can't shy away from the fact. And this is something that I tried to fight against, but I have to be honest. This is what was talked about in the Division II spaces, literally the Twitter spaces, but also just within the space itself. Shawn Gibbs is an amazing coach. He's an amazing developer of young men, and especially an amazing developer of running backs. But he was 1-2 against Albany State in those 3 years. Won in 2022, but lost in 23 and 24. He had the better teams. Period. Albany State alums that are rational will say that, because we'll say if Albany State had a better team, we'll say that. But no, Fort Valley had a better team, and we literally were on the precipice of making it to the SIC championship 23 and 24. Benedict gets scheduled for homecoming because we moved up our homecoming in 2022. They beat us down. We're on ESPN and we're at Benedict. They beat us down again, although Kelvin Durham was likely injured. Okay. You lose to Tuskegee in 2023, and you arguably had a better team than Tuskegee, although that was a good game. There is a causation of, hey, we want to see Coach Gibbs win those big games. But now you look at it like this. All right. You have Chennis Berry that went from the SIAC to the MEAC, and he was able to run the gambit. I do want to see what Shawn Gibbs does in those HBCU games. The CAA is going to be interesting, but is he going to recruit for those HBCU games? Is he going to recruit for the CAA, or is he going to recruit for both? Because I'm going to pick Chennis Berry, because I believe you like Eric Phoenix is going to go because he has his years are done as far as in college, right? So Chennis Berry has to find a new quarterback. He proved he could, because Aeneas Dennis, a lot of us were saying arguably as a pocket presence, he was better than Eric Phoenix. Now, I don't know about Eric Phoenix, and now Eric Phoenix is better than he was at Benedict. But Aeneas Dennis, we argued, was better than Aeneas Dennis was better than Eric Phoenix arguably last year. So I have faith that Chennis Berry is going to find a good quarterback. I wonder how much turnover Chennis Berry and South Carolina State are really going to have, especially from that transfer portal, because I think a lot of folks want to play for Chennis Berry because of how great of a coach he is, how great of a man he is. So I'm interested to see what happens with that. But I just think that for me, I would choose South Carolina State because I would trust the physicality that South Carolina State would bring under Chennis Berry more than Shawn Gibbs at this point. Now, we're talking about year 2 versus year 3 because they probably will play. That's different.
Well, this is still all hypothetical. We don't know what the schedule is going to look like. I love how you brought facts to a hypothetical, maybe not hypothetical question, but I wouldn't say that you're wrong. This is because we're talking pre-Celebration Bowl and pre-Shawn Gibbs era. We're just talking about two dominating Division II two Division II head coaches that are now Division I coaches who have seen great success. If I had to see them now, I would say South Carolina State as well. I mean, we don't know. Shawn Gibbs has more to do, to me, than Chennis Berry. Chennis Berry's just looking for a quarterback. Shawn Gibbs is literally starting from ground zero. So, interesting. 2025, hopefully, is a better year because 2024 kicked our butt.
But I have a question for you. Wait, I have a question for you. Okay. Do you think that A&T will beat Central next year?
No.
With Shawn Gibbs. So what do you think? And let's say Kelvin Durham doesn't go to A&T and he has to go find another quarterback. Like, do you have faith that Shawn Gibbs, who is an Eagle, by the way, he's actually an alum of North Carolina Central, do you think that he will go in and beat his alma mater with A&T? Do you think that it was really, because you said you don't think that Vincent Brown was a bad coach necessarily, but I feel like what you were saying is that he sort of lost the locker room, especially after that homecoming loss. And you have a different voice in there that understands A&T, that was a part of the success of A&T. Tyreek Cohen is going to be back around that program. A lot of the greats, the recent greats, going to be back around that program. So the culture fit is going to be there. And you have a different voice that's in the headset and that's speaking to those young men. So do you think that will be enough of what he will bring in and what he'll retain to be a North Carolina Central program that you picked to go to the Celebration Bowl this year?
My answer is still no. I just think there's still a learning curve there. Just because you have the recruits, you got to make sure everybody can play seamlessly together. And I think Jackson State is a prime example. You had so many big players, especially Travis Hunter, and then you had 2 Dion boys, and then you had all these other really great players, especially that D-line. That D-line was just NFL worthy. But they all did it without egos. And I think one thing that did kill A&T for these 2 seasons is people built egos off of the success of A&T and what we've done in the past. They'll believe, oh, I'm going to play for A&T. This is a championship winning team. They've done this back-to-back years. They they know what it means to win. And I think there were too many egos on A&T's team to actually play cohesively. And so Shawn Gibbs doesn't play that. And we've seen that, we've seen it with Raynard when he was our quarterback, and you've seen it with Tyreek Cohen. Like, there was a lot of superstars on that team, but they all were brothers. So trying to create that kind of culture that, like, I'm bringing some big stars in here, but nobody's bigger than the other, because Shawn Gibbs is not afraid to pull you out. He will bench players. I've seen it. I've been on the sidelines. He told them to go sit down. Shawn Gibbs doesn't play. So, but that wouldn't be on him. It's still a learning curve. You still have to build a team. You still have to get them past the depression, the anxiety of the past traumatizing 2 years in the CAA. It's been traumatizing. So, you have to make sure that your players are ready for that. I would say it won't be as dominating losses as it has been for the past 2 years, maybe 3. It won't be as big of a loss. I feel like the losses will be closer, and I think this year, I think it comes back to A&T, I want to say. But if it does, then I still see a loss, but I see a more honorable loss than what we have been. But nothing to Shawn Gibbs. It's really not him. It's just rebuilding a culture and establishing a culture is harder than what people think. And just because he's returning and he knows A&T, you're bringing in people that only know A&T maybe through a screen, or maybe had never have heard of us at all. That's how I started at A&T. I didn't know anything about A&T until my mom had to go and do research. A&T was foreign to me. And you're going to have some players that are like that. I've never heard of them, but I have to come and play for Coach Shawn Gibbs. So it's going to be a learning curve. And like I said, it's not to him. He knows what A&T is. It's just trying to build that culture. So I don't see them winning in that scenario, but I do see them being more successful. And plus, those games don't really count. But it's nice to count in our hearts that we're still dominating wherever we are. That's just how I feel.
What I will say, just to close out this conversation, is that I sort of hope that North Carolina A&T becomes a member of the MEAC in football only. I sort of really hope that in the future, we don't have time to talk about it.
You still on that?
Yes, I am.
Bro.
Because I think that would be amazing for all parties involved, and especially for Shawn Gibbs. However, I just hope that, because I think this will happen. I just hope that there's patience for him in the CAA, because I just think that it's a bad draw. Honestly, I think that being the CAA, I don't think it's because A&T won't be able to compete. I just think that you lose the HBCU advantage of, we're playing in these games with the culture and the bands and all these different things. You lose that, especially deep into your schedule, unless you schedule HBCUs for homecoming. Like, you just sort of lose that. And I think that is a recruiting advantage, honestly. So I hope that maybe y'all become members of the MEAC in football at the very least. But if that doesn't happen, I just hope that there is patience, because he is a great football coach and a great football mind. But we'll see. I'm happy for y'all.
I can't wait till this schedule drops, because this HBCU Pulse episode is gonna go crazy, because we gotta wrap around to that. Not you come back to the MEAC. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The celebration ball will be real fun. Chinnesbury versus Shawn Gibbs. We got a rivalry brewing. You know what I'm saying? And then he could beat Chinnesbury to go to the celebration bowl. Impossible. Anyway, let's go. I know you're gonna catch it. You're gonna catch it.
I got you offline. It's cool. It's cool.
Oh my God. But Arielle, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me outside the MEAC in the CAA on my profiles on Instagram at __.MartyrDayAri, or put me in the hot seat on Twitter. Tell me if we really do need to come back on MEAC, also known as X at @Screery__, or go check out my website, ariellekilgore.canva.com.
I love it. You're listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to hbcupulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.